If God is for us, then who the is against us? Conspiracy or not, strategize and plot. Buy back your block, real estate and stocks. Stack what you got, hold down your spot. Strike while you hot and think the man up top. Conspiracy or not, strategize and plot. Buy back your block, real estate and stocks. Stack what you got, hold down your spot. Strike while you hot and think the man up top. Conspiracy or not, strategize and plot. Buy back your block, real estate and stocks. Stack what you got, hold down your spot. Strike while you hot and think the man up top. Conspiracy or not, strategize and plot. Buy back your block, real estate and stocks. Stack what you got, hold down your spot. Strike while you hot and think the man up top. Conspiracy or not, strategize and plot.
Welcome to the Wealth Mindset with JD Garnier. Listen, man, conspiracy or not, strategize and plot. Buy back your block, real estate and stocks, stack what you got, hold down your spot, strike while you hot, and thank the man up top. Listen, the instructions are simple. I hope you're having a wonderful week in your wealth creation journey. And as always, listen, my goal is simple, to help you walk in wealth, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. To take the things that God has already given you and use those to create a life of purpose, so that wealth is more than just what you acquire. Wealth is who you become. You are the wealth. It's not your investments. It's not your business. It's not your real estate. It's you. And before you have any of those things, you have a unique and specific set of talents, abilities, gifts, ideas, habits, disciplines, and inclinations that form the basis of everything that you do in this world. And once you tap into that, you build wealth in your life. So again, you are the wealth. Listen, man, I've been thinking, and I always say that life is math, right? Every decision that you make is a mathematical calculation to move you forward in life. But a lot of times the numbers don't add up. The math doesn't work in your favor. And you just feel like you're going through life, going through the motions, nothing is connecting. And it's because you don't have a starting point. You don't have a purpose. Right? You don't have a vision for your life. You're just going through life without any clarity of what you're supposed to be doing. But once you have a starting point, now you can build on that starting point, right? Your decisions start to add up. They start to align with the vision that you have for your life. And it becomes a mathematical calculation. What are the behaviors that you need to do every single day in order for you to execute your purpose, to execute God's vision for your life? That's why your purpose is so important, because then it becomes a numbers game and you have to put the numbers in your favor. I tell my kids that every day, that life is math. They have to make a set of decisions. Every day we wake up, we got to make a set of decisions that's going to move us forward in life. It's going to get us through the day. It's going to get us through the week. It's going to get us through life. And if there is no starting point, if there is no baseline for which you are building on, then you're just going through the motions. You're just going through the motions in life. And unfortunately, that's the situation that a lot of people are in. They're just going through the motions in life, which leads to depression. It leads to unhappiness. It leads to unfulfillment. And then you start to look for pleasure in things that have nothing to do with your purpose. You start to look for pleasure in things that have nothing to do with God's original instruction in your life. And mathematically, you're taking yourself out of the game. See, people always ask me, how do I get here, JD? What do I need to do? What do I need to start? And they think that I'm going to give them some investment advice. They think I'm going to give them some guidance or advice, um, that's just going to change their life. But most times, I just start with a purpose, because that's going to tell me a lot. Because if you don't know where you're going, I can't give you directions. If you don't know what you're doing, I can't give you instructions. I said a few weeks ago, I can tell you how to get what you want. I can tell you how to get there, but I can't tell you where to go, because I don't know your purpose. Only you and God know your purpose. I can tell you, yeah, you need to work hard. You need to commit. You need to be consistent. You need to sacrifice. I can tell you all the things that you need to do to get there, but I can't tell you where to go. And I think that's important for people to understand, because you can listen to all of the motivational and self-help books that you want, and it's not going to help you if you don't have a purpose. It's not going to help you if you're not talking to God on a daily basis and asking him for clarity of who you're supposed to be, of what you're supposed to be doing, of how you're supposed to be living your life. If you're not asking him for that type of clarity, then like I said, you get lost in the sauce, because you're just going through the motions. You're just living life. And then one day you look up and years have gone by and you have not done or accomplished anything, because you're not living in your purpose. And once you know your purpose, it becomes an algorithm. It becomes the idea of repeating a process over and over again. First two layers done. And, I used to joke all the time, and I still do, and tell people that I'm a genius, right? I've always tested. I've always been in gifted classes my whole life. But honestly, I came to the realization very early on that life was a mathematical equation. And so it was incumbent upon me to put the numbers in my favor. And so what happens so many times is that once we know our purpose, you then have to understand that it's nothing but an algorithm from them. It is a repeated, consistent, methodical process to get you to where you want to go in life. And it's kind of like this Rubik's Cube, right? All this is an algorithm. It is an algorithm that repeated consistently gives you the result that you need. And so it's not as hard as people think. The same way life is not as hard as people think. And so I guess I'm saying this today because I think we need to wake up, man. If I'm being really honest, right? A lot of us know what to do. I would venture to say that most people know what to do with their life. They're just not consistent with the process. They know exactly what they need to be doing to change their life, but you're just not consistent with the process. That's what I see. Excuse me. As I just attempt to see if I still understand the algorithm with solving this Rubik's Cube. And the reason why I'm doing it live is to show you that life is nothing, or success rather, is nothing but a consistent and repeatable process. And so once you know what you want, once you know what you're supposed to be doing, the goal is then to create a consistent and repeatable process. An algorithm. And once you do that, once you create an algorithm for your life, what happens is the numbers start to add up in your favor. The numbers start to fall in your favor because you're doing what most people don't want to do. You're being consistent. Most people struggle with the idea of consistency. That's why most people don't get what they want. Most people will never make it to the NBA because they don't want to shoot 1,000 jump shots a day. But if you don't want to shoot 1,000 jump shots a day, do you really want what you say you want? Because that's what Steph Curry does. He shoot 1,000 jump shots a day. Most people don't want to do that. Okay. Oh, bam. I'm cooking with fish grease. Nah, we almost done. Okay, let's see. We almost got it. Let me see. Oh, snap. Yellow face done. White face done. Layer 1, layer 2 done. Okay. Should be just one more move now. One more algorithm. And there you have it. Success is nothing but a pattern of consistent and repeatable algorithms, consistent and repeatable habits that start with the vision for your life, that start with your purpose. Once you know who it is that you're supposed to be, your consistency and your ability to adapt and navigate to different situations and circumstances is how you become successful. That's what it is. It's not some sexy thing that you can just acquire. You're not going to become successful by simply buying a course or reading a book. It's your actions, your consistent and repeatable actions, day in and day out. What time you wake up in the morning? What do you consume? How often do you work out? What are you eating? What are you watching? What are you reading? Those things compound over time. Those things add up over time. That's all it is. And I guess I'm talking about this because people think that they can always take the easy way. But there is no easy way. There's no easy way. And, I was thinking the other day about some of the biggest lessons that I've learned working with ultra wealthy families. And, for those of you who are new to my channel, for those of you who don't know who I am, I've been in finance and wealth management for 25 years. I'm not going to read my background. I have every credential that you can think of. I'm also an attorney by background. But on this channel, I don't talk about wealth in the sense of dollars and cents. I talk about it from the perspective of how you think, because I believe that that is the baseline. And in my experience in advising and guiding people that are worth tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, I've recognized a pattern in how many of those people think. And the crazy thing to me, one of the things that we do when we are advising families on their assets, if somebody's about to sell a company, let's say for $100 million, one of the things that we'll do for them is we'll take them on a retreat and bring in their entire family, right? The wife, the children, the brother-in-law, everyone who has a vested interest in this person's life, in their assets and their business and their legacy. And we'll have a combination of educational classes where we talk about different dynamics of how to protect wealth and their responsibility. But then we also talk about from a family and legacy perspective and the values that the founder or the person who started the business, the things that they cared about most. And the crazy thing that I realize is that everybody is thinking about money. The kids thinking about the money, the wife thinking about the money, the brother-in-law thinking about the money, the lawyers, the financial advisor. Everybody in that room is thinking about the money, except for the person who's worth the money. The person that's worth $100 million, that built that business from the ground up, that worked 80 hours a day, That person is worth $100 million. And they're in that room and they're with everybody that they care about. And they're the only person that's not thinking about money. They're the decision maker. They are the value. They the person that's feeding everybody that's in the room. And that's the only person that is not thinking about the money. So what does that tell you? That tells you that it's not about the money. It is about the value. The person that's chasing the money never has the money. But the person that is creating the value always has the resources. So the person that's worth $100 million, and they're not even thinking about money. They're thinking about the people they care about. They're thinking about their legacy, their name, their reputation. They're thinking about making sure that their wife is taken care of. They're thinking about their grandchildren. They're thinking about the charitable interest that they care about, the church, their alma mater. They're thinking about everything else, and everybody else is thinking about the money. Isn't that a crazy dynamic? The creator of the tree is not thinking about the fruit. They're thinking about the health of the tree, because they know if the tree is healthy, it's going to feed them fruit every season. If you were the wealth creator, if you were the one that God gave a purpose to go out and build, to go out and create, to go out and make something happen, you need to focus on that. And the money's going to come. You focus on creating that value and create consistent and repeatable algorithms that allow you excuse me, I thought I had completed it. All right, there we go. Lord have mercy. I done messed myself all up trying to fix a problem. Anyway, listen. Hopefully, I'm getting through to somebody in terms of how I'm talking, because so many of us have stuff in us and we never get it out. We have ideas, we have aspirations, we have things that would contribute to this world. But we're afraid to start. We're afraid to invest in ourselves to get those things out. But God don't give you those ideas for nothing. He gave them to you for a reason. And so first you have to speak them into existence. You have to make them reality in this world by putting them on paper and talking about them out loud. But once you know that thing, once you've decided that you're going to invest yourself in that thing, you got to commit to it. It's a daily process. When I first started in my business, I had no clients. We're paid based on our book of business. And so if you don't have any clients, you don't have any income. They pay you a small salary for a couple of years or so, but after that, you're on your own. You haven't built up a business on your own, it's over for you. It was days where, or months rather, where I made $700, $800, and that was my paycheck. As a matter of fact, my first year as a financial advisor, I was working overnight at the newspaper to supplement my income. So I would work all day making phone calls, trying to help people with financial planning, all of this new information that I had learned as a young man that I really wanted to help people and show people how to build wealth and take advantage of investing. And then overnight, from 11 o'clock at night to 5 o'clock in the morning, I was working at the newspaper. And I'm talking about lifting big hails of newspapers as they're coming off the chute, hot off the press, so they could go on the truck and deliver the newspapers. So I was working in a warehouse with steel toe boots, because if one of those bales of paper fell on your foot, it'll break your foot. And I did that for over a year, but I knew my purpose and I was committed to it. So sometimes you're going to have to do what you have to do. But I was consistent and I created a repeatable process. It was months I didn't get any clients. I was rejected. Nobody wanted to give me their business. Could have quit, could have did something else. But I knew my purpose. I would host seminars on financial planning and literacy, and 2 or 3 people would show up. I remember one time I did a seminar in, I want to say it was in the Magnolia Project at an elementary school. And maybe 3 people were there. And then the janitors and the cleanup crew was in the back. And guess what? I gave those people the best financial planning seminar they ever had at the time. This was in 2001, 2002. One of the ladies at my church, I sold her life insurance on her whole family, and I helped her get retirement account and investment account. And this was over 20 some years ago. And I still see this lady to this day. And she is thankful that I helped set her up with this baseline. And unfortunately, somebody passed and she was able to use that life insurance policy. But then she's also built up her retirement. Consistency. Today, I don't really take a meeting unless somebody has at least $1 million in liquid assets to invest. That's how much we've built our practice up. And I work with all people, and I try to help everybody. But those are our minimums for my practice. And the only reason I'm telling you that is because when you are committed and consistent, that's when God blesses you. When you are committed, I was willing to do what God told me to do. I was willing to execute my purpose, even when the income wasn't involved, even when the income was low. I've given dozens and dozens of speaking engagements, and I didn't make a dime. But I knew that I wanted to impart something into somebody's heart. And so when I look at a founder or somebody who's built up a $50 million or $100 million company, and I learn about their story and how they started in their garage, or, they started this business, with a loan, and I've seen what they've done. And I realize they don't really care about money. They care about value. And that gives me a perspective on wealth, because wealth is a byproduct of value. When you own and control things of value, you are wealthy. And when you're a business owner, you are creating something of value. Most businesses start as an idea. And so you're telling me God could just give me an idea, and if I do what I'm supposed to do in this world, I can take a thought, something that does not even exist, and make it a reality, and building build it into something that is worth millions and millions of dollars just off an idea. I don't need a help from anybody to come up with that. Not saying that you don't need help along the way, but the point is you have more power than you think. You have more value than you think. But it starts with your purpose. And once that happens, all of the numbers start to come together. Everything starts to add up. It starts to align. People that wouldn't take my phone call years ago, they calling me. Meetings that I would never imagine I would get are seeking my guidance and advice. Stages I used to be in a crowd for, now I'm the keynote speaker. Commitment and consistency. I lived in my purpose until the numbers started to add in my favor. You can't jump around from here to there. The Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. I always say you can do anything, but you can't do everything. You need to focus and commit. You're trying to do everything at once. Nothing is going to get enough of your attention to really build it. So lock in. Hey, lock in. Now is the time. There's no more excuses. The world is changing fast. You're not executing your purpose, the world is going to pass you by. So lock in, get it together, and maintain a wealth mindset. And remember, change begins from within. Y'all have a good afternoon.